Yep. Good afternoon. Welcome to Living in the Texas Hill Country. I actually forgot what episode we were on. I think it's 12 this
It
week.
is it is 12. I had to go check, and it is
I
episode
forgot to
12.
check. But that's exciting. Yeah, we've got Molly Keck here today. She's going to, first of all, introduce herself so that she can say her title correctly for me. And we're going to talk a little bit about apiaries and what that means. And if you already know what it means, then you'll learn more about what you can do at home. So, Molly, you can take it away.
Sure. So my name's Molly Keck. I am an entomologist and an integrated pest management program specialist with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service, and do about 25% of what I do is apiculture, beekeeping 101 for like a backyard beekeeper. I am not good enough to tell a commercial beekeeper what to do for sure. And I am located in the Bexar County office in San Antonio, but as a program specialist, kind of serve all the surrounding counties or the region that you would consider San Antonio to be in.
So I guess we'll start off with, so what is, for people who don't know, what is an apiary?
An apiary is just a place where you have your managed beehive. So that could be your pasture, it could be like large acreage, or it could just be your backyard. It's just where your bees are housed.
See, and I always thought like an apiary like referred to the actual like bee box itself. Like that was the term when you said
So,
apiary, it was the bee box. But you're actually talking about like, I'll say quote unquote the habitat or the area that they are, your area that they are utilizing, even though they don't see
Living in.
fences and they tend to just go where they need to go to get their food.
Yeah, so I usually say the bee box is the house, the empty house. The hive is the box with the habitants inside of it. And where those are placed is your apiary. So it's like the apiary is the neighborhood, the
Okay.
house is the home where you and your family live, and the bee box is the vacant house.
oh, I love that analogy.
I do too. I do too. And so I guess this kind of leads me into so with bee boxes, I'm assuming a lot of times people just go buy their own bee boxes. Can people build their own bee
Yeah.
boxes?
Yeah, you can build them. You can find, I'm sure you can find dimensions on the internet. You can also, through different catalogs, beekeeping suppliers, you can purchase built, painted, just ready to put out boxes. You can buy them unpainted, where you paint them yourself. You can buy them unassembled and unpainted so that you assemble them yourself, or you can just build it yourself. The thing about building it yourself is that bees utilize what's called the bee space. And this was discovered by this Reverend Lorenzo Langstroth in, I want to say, the 1800s. And so the white boxes that you see are called Langstroth hives, named after this guy, because he discovered that there's a space that is, if it's smaller than a quarter of an inch or so, it's too small for a bee to squeeze through, and they'll propolize and seal it up. And if it's larger than, I think 3/8 of an inch, maybe. I'm not really, that doesn't make sense, but maybe that's what it is. But if it's too large, they'll fill it up with comb. So they like a perfect tight space to squeeze
Oh,
their bodies through. And so if you don't build your bee box with respect to that bee space, then you get either propolized, everything's glued up and they can't utilize the whole bee box, or they'll do what's called burr comb, which is just extra comb they've built in places you don't want them to. And then that makes things sticky and a mess. So if you're going to build your own things, you have a little range, but it's not by very much.
but
And you want to make sure that everything, that where the frames fit between each other, how far the frames dangle before it touches the next thing, the bottom, all those things have to be within that bee space.
so then
So I
that's something
guess,
I had never thought about is I mean you like you said you're working with a very small organism. So your error cannot be like you have a very small
yeah,
margin of error in regards
yeah,
to their little bee door is basically what it
yeah.
is.
I
Oh,
would say buy your first one and then you can see how it's supposed to be and then build from there. But always utilize
okay.
that bee
Well,
space. Like for most, so I guess the answer is yeah, you can build your own stuff, but you got to be a pretty good carpenter.
that is that is fair enough. That is beyond I can cut a piece of wood, but I probably if I ever ever could have an apiary, I probably should not build my own.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. But and I realize we're kind of we have our little list of questions and we've already like I've already dove down another rabbit hole. So you had mentioned that you can like buy ones that are like unfinished. You can paint your own. Generally, bee boxes are white, but can you
Mhm.
kind of make them whatever you want? Or are there
Yeah.
certain colors that are recommended because they are bee friendly or
Yeah.
discourage other things from coming into the
So I
bee box?
think that most bee boxes are painted white because it's just cheap and
Oh,
easy
I see.
paint. It's probably just primer. And it's and also you only paint the outside. You don't
Mhm.
want to paint on the inside of it. They'll seal that up with their propolis themselves. Um, but it's probably the cheapest paint, and all white paint is the same color, right? So it's just easy to keep it consistent. But you can paint your own boxes if you want to. You just want to use lighter colors so that A, it's not hot, but also they don't like dark objects. They'll sting that stuff. So I would go with light things. I've got boxes that I've gotten from people that where they painted like designs and stuff on it. So
Oh,
maybe a
cool.
light background and then you can do other colors.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll get back on track. We will get back on track. So, what are somebody that decides they want to have their own bee boxes? What are some like the first steps that they need to take in order to, obviously they need bees, they need a bee box, but what do they need to get started, basically?
So first, I would take a class, and there's lots of ways to take a class. There are local beekeepers that often will do workshops. You can join your local beekeeping club, the Texas Beekeepers Association also, but take a class in some shape or form so that you get a base knowledge of what it's like to keep bees. The stuff that you need to physically do it, you'll need to get bee boxes. And I described, and what you're probably envisioning in your head are Langstroth hives, but there's also top bar hives or one that's called like a horizontal Langstroth. So there's other varieties. The flow hive is just is a variation of the Langstroth hive. So you need your hive equipment, you need your tools, a hive tool, a smoker, a bee brush. Those are probably the three basics. And the most basic is a hive tool. And then you need bees. You have to purchase bees. You can put out boxes and bees will come to it, maybe, but they most likely won't. And so the only thing that we can really control as a beekeeper is the genetics and the gentleness of our bees. And the only way we can control that is by purchasing bees with gentle genetics. And so it's probably better if you want it to be an enjoyable situation to purchase bees from a commercial beekeeper.
And I guess this is another thing and so all the bees that you keep in a hive, they're not native bees. So if you put the boxes out, you are not waiting for native bees to come.
Yeah.
You're waiting
Well,
for
so,
honeybees, which are
right.
technically not native here.
Technically not native, but they were introduced in the 1600s, so they become naturalized. So, they're basically native now. But yeah, and then also like people might be thinking native bees are those that I'm not putting in a box. We call those feral honeybees. And you don't know what the genetics of those feral honeybees are. And they could be aggressive or they could be gentle. And you want bees to be gentle so that you can enjoy being a beekeeper.
Right, and not constantly worry about getting stung and or attacked
Yeah.
when you go to walk up to that. So I guess that leads me to the question of, do you recommend, I know normally they have like bee suits. People have bee suits, and I guess is that more of like, I hate to say like a comfort level thing? Like I mean, you see people walk up and they don't have a suit on, and then you see other times people walk up with a suit on. So is that something that's sort of always recommended, and it's just some people just choose not to at some point wear a bee suit?
Yeah, I mean, it's just personal preference and like your comfort level around bees. I personally never go out to my hives without a full suit. So that's I guess the other thing that other than equipment, tools, and the bees, you need your protective equipment. So there are for variations of the suit, there's the full suit, which covers you head to ankle, head to ankle, and then your hands are exposed. There are jackets, which are essentially hoodies. And then there are just the veil that's only really going to protect your face. And then there are bee gloves. And a lot of people will be like, oh, the bee glove just looks like this kind of glove that I have at home. And I would just say that beekeeping is the oldest hobby on the planet, in the history of humans. Use the equipment that we have for beekeeping because it's that way for a reason. So I always suit up because I don't like being stung and I've developed an allergy to bees. And but some people are just very calm and all they need really is a veil and maybe gloves. So it's really just personal preference, how well you manage your bees, how good you are with your bees. And I would recommend starting out, I would get a full suit and I would get a vented full suit because it's kind of got it's like two layers of mesh almost with a like a not rubber or plastic, but some weird fabric in between. It's like, you know what it's like? It's like what you put down to keep your rugs from moving. So it's
Oh,
kind of this
yeah.
honeycomb deal. And so it's really thick, but it allows airflow so you're not sweating in like a full solid suit. And then as you get more comfortable, buy a hood or buy just a veil and then see what you want to wear. But start out safe because you're probably gonna be really nervous around your
Yeah.
bees and they can smell fear, it feels like. And so you're likely to be stung if you're not really great at handling them. And the first one that stings releases an alarm pheromone. You're going to get stung over and over and over again. So if you don't have a full suit on, if you're stung in a full suit, it doesn't matter. But if you aren't, then if they get you, they're going to keep getting you and you got to run away.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know, I think I'm trying to, I've been very fortunate. I haven't been stung that many times, but it hurts. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to not freak out when it
Yeah.
happens, but yeah, it definitely is not, it's not a fun day to be
It's not
stung.
fun. Some people don't even feel it anymore. Like a lot of guys like won't use gloves, but they have like thick calloused hands,
Oh,
I think.
hmm.
And so maybe the stinger doesn't go all the way into them, but
Mhm.
I don't enjoy it. So I'd prefer to put the whole suit on and not have to worry about it.
I would probably agree with you there because it's just and it yeah, it's just not fun. And that's interesting that you have developed a bee allergy over time. Normally it's supposed to be like you're supposed to build up your immunity to it. So
Right.
Yeah,
that's
I
definitely
think
unfortunate.
I guess it goes halfway. Either you develop a tolerance or you develop an intolerance. And if it's a 1 in a million chance of something going wrong, that's always what happens to me. So I went the other way.
Oh, goodness.
Okay. So beekeeping class, you get all your equipment. Where's a good, so you mentioned purchasing bees. Is this just something that you can just sort of like go on the internet and search like honeybees for sale or something like that? Like where should people go? Or what are some things that they should avoid? Like some maybe like red flags of I probably shouldn't get my bees from this
Yeah.
place.
You can probably Google it and find something. Um, I think it's a really good idea to join your local beekeeping club, and then you can find out where people are buying their stuff for, and just talk to people so that you figure out who gives good bees and who doesn't. But it's locally, there's going to be different places to go. I would say maybe the biggest ones in Texas are Bee Weaver or R Weaver, which are in Navasota, so that's East Texas. And then there's the Bee Supply, formerly was called Texas Bee Supply, but the Bee Supply, and he is in the McKinney area, I believe, and may have some locations in other parts of Texas. But there are also other local ones. Like I know there's one in Somerset, there's one in Seguin, but I'm in San Antonio, so I just know them better. There's a guy in Beeville, an Amish guy in Beeville that does bees. There's a
Okay.
lot
Yeah.
of different commercial beekeepers that will sell bees. And so you just kind of have to ask around who people are buying their bees from in your area. But even those bigger ones will do like a Central Texas drop off. And so you can drive a little closer and then pick your bees up from them instead of having to drive all the way to Navasota or McKinney.
Oh, I had never thought about that. So yeah, you will have to drive to go pick up your bees. They're not going to ship them in the mail.
Well, it depends. So
Okay.
there are When you buy bees, you either buy a package, a nuke or nucleus. Some people pronounce it nuc. I say nuke because I say nucleus.
Yes.
And then, or you can buy a whole hive. A package of bees is a box of bees with, it's just a wooden box with a mesh, with two mesh sides, screen sides, and they will ship that to you. And a queen is in there. So it's 3 pounds of bees, about 10,000 bees plus a queen. But most people purchase a nuke because it's essentially just a miniature hive, like 5 frames of bees with already pollen and honey and comb built out on it. And then you just transfer that into your box. And those you can't ship. So if you're buying a package that gets shipped, it can be shipped, but a nuke you go and pick up. And a hive, obviously, you pick up too.
Okay. Yeah, and I know around here I've seen where this is totally sidetracked, but where they've people are like I'll say leasing the property to put
Mhm.
their beehives on, and yeah, it was literally a tractor trailer with that mesh around it and just a bunch of hives, and I was like, those are beehives, and there are bees
Yeah,
in there, which was absolutely crazy to me the first time I saw that.
yeah. Yeah, people do both things. They either actually, more people are leasing their bees. Like you've got property and you want to use bees as your ag valuation. And so they'll reach out to a beekeeper and they'll actually pay the beekeeper to put their bees on your property so you can get that valuation. And they manage the bees for you. I'd say that's probably more common than people saying, I have all this land, you can lease it from me and put your bees out there.
Oh yes, that is a much better way to say that. Yes. That is what I've noticed. Um, so how much space do the bees how much space do the bees require in order
They
to do what they need to do?
They don't need a lot of space. They forage up to 2 miles, 1.5 to 2 miles for food, pollen, and nectar and water. But the majority of foraging is going to happen within a 1/4 mile radius, which is still pretty good distance. So if you have your bees somewhere and you're like, but there's nothing blooming, I bet you they can still find stuff. But as far as like space constraints, more space is obviously better just because they're further away from people. But people do beekeeping in their backyard. In San Antonio, and I'm sure in Houston, Dallas, and in cities downtown, they often have bees on rooftops,
Mhm.
especially at restaurants. Um, I have a guy that took my class and he put his bees on, like he has a 2-story house and the second story window, he can walk out onto the roof and he has his bees there. So you don't need a lot of space to keep bees. It can definitely be a backyard hobby thing. But you wouldn't want to have 20 hives in your backyard. You would only want to have one or two or three.
And so you mentioned that they can forage for up to 2 miles. Is that per day, or is that like, do they fly 2 miles, spend the night, and come back, or how do they normally do that?
It, it's probably per day,
Oh,
and
wow.
most bees, so they wake up in the morning, when the sun's shining, most people will try to orient their hive so the entrance is southeast. So the morning sun wakes them up, warms them up, and they start foraging right away. And they're foraging, picking up food, taking it back, unloading whatever they've collected, and then going back to that resource. So they're visiting whatever that resource is multiple times a day. But if they're
Wow.
traveling 2 miles, if you think about a little bee, whatever bit of nectar or pollen they're bringing back, they're eating that equal amount, you
Yeah.
know? So it's a wash. So you want more resources to be closer.
In your, yeah,
2 miles is a far distance, but they'll do it if they're desperate.
makes sense.
So if that would be, and I realize it's very hard to track where your bees are going. You can't exactly tell, it's not like you can stick a little GPS on your bees and be like, oh yes, they are traveling 2 miles. I need to provide more resources in the immediate area. Is there, this is kind of a hard question. Is there a way to tell if your bees are traveling too far and you do maybe need to provide something for them?
That's a good
There's
question.
a way to, I don't know if you can tell how far they're traveling, but there's absolutely a way to tell if your bees need more, if you need to supplement feed them. And most beekeepers will be feeding their bees multiple times a year. Um, so that's part of managing your bees. You're opening your hive You're evaluating like how much food is packed in there, um, pollen versus honey versus how many baby frames, how many frames of babies there are. So you have an idea of, oh gosh, I got a lot coming out. They're going to need a lot of food. Or I'm not seeing a lot of food. Everything is empty and lightweight. And there's also not a lot of babies. Yeah, because Queen knows that she can't, there's no one to give food to. There's no food to give to those babies. So she'll stop laying as much. She needs that food to promote laying. So there's ways inside the hive. It's not necessarily knowing how far they're going or what they're getting,
Mm,
but looking at the hive
what
and
you
seeing
have
how
in
they're
front of you.
doing. Yeah.
Okay.
And you usually, when you say you feed your bees, you're giving them a sugar syrup mixture of 1-to-1 by weight ratio of sugar to water. And then it switches to 2-to-1 sugar to water. So it's real thick in the winter. And then like around this time of year, you start making it thicker. Fall to winter, it's thicker. And then the rest of the year, it's a 1-to-1. Or you might be supplement feeding with some pollen, synthetic pollen or natural pollen, and that promotes the queen to lay eggs. So there's different reasons why you give them different food based off of what you're seeing inside the hive.
Okay. So when you a lot of times, so are beekeepers a lot of time making their own food for their bees, or is this something that you can go out and purchase if this is something you need to do?
Both. You can do both. So you can make your own. You can buy jugs. They get pretty expensive. But you can, like if they're really weak or something, a lot of times they'll have extra additives to them and they also don't go bad. And it might just, might be easy just to grab that 5-gallon thing of that food and feed them than to heat up water and make your sugar syrup at home. You usually buy pollen. You either buy dry pollen and make it into a paste, or you buy pollen patties and cut little, like 2-inch by 2-inch or 3-inch by 3-inch squares and give that to them. You can also get solid food that's good for the winter. So it's like a fondant almost, or like a paste of sugar. And I've even seen and used sugar bricks, like just a big old, I don't know, 6-inch by 6-inch square, 2 inches thick. That's just like a solid brick of sugar. And you put that in the hive. So there's lots of, I would say if go get yourself a beekeeping catalog from one of the big suppliers and just use that as a textbook to go through, and you'll find all the fun stuff and different things that you can do, the toys you can buy for bees.
And see, as like a bird person, I automatically thought of like making like hummingbird nectar, like
Yeah, it's the
two,
same.
yeah, 2 parts water to 1 part sugar. And I was just like, so it's basically the same process. But then it was like, I didn't realize you could buy like bricks and like I didn't know you could buy pollen. I had no idea you could
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, I think it's fake, but it's
Yeah,
got what they
artificial,
need.
artificial pollen.
Yes.
So I guess what are some common mistakes that you hear about new beekeepers making?
Even old beekeepers, even like seasoned beekeepers, I think that the top 3 reasons why a colony will decline is, and I will fight you on this every day, varroa mites are a number one, way high number one. If 99% of the time when a colony fails, it's because the mite load was too high and they introduce disease and other issues to the hive. And then you could, I don't really know which one is second and third, but a very close second, third are queen health and then poor nutrition. And so all of those things are things that a beekeeper can intervene and fix. You can buy a new queen and requeen if the queen isn't doing well. You can monitor for mites and treat for mites if you think it's a mite issue, and you should be doing that anyway. And then poor nutrition is checking to see what their resources are inside the hive and supplement feeding when that's necessary. So I'd say those are the top 3 reasons they fail. Do you recognize that's why they failed? Probably not. You blame it on like wax moths because they came into the hive after they died and you think, oh, that's what killed them. But they were dead before they came in.
So for the mites, what are some signs that the hive is having some issues with mites?
So most hives will have mites. They are like they're something we struggle with and will continue to probably struggle with unless we come up with something. So they can cause different viruses like twisted wings. They just overall just like lack of vigor inside the colony. Queen isn't laying very well. They're not doing very well. Colony isn't growing, but you want to monitor for mites, and you monitor. There's a website called Honeybee Health Coalition.org, and it has some really good videos so you could visualize what I'm talking about. But you collect 300 bees, which sounds hard, but it's actually really easy. You find a frame that has eggs and larvae on it, because that's where most of the mites come out of, those baby cells. And you just take like a half measuring cup and you roll it down the frame, and the bees tumble into it. And then you can put it into there's different things that you can buy, but you could do just a mason jar with the solid piece taken out of the lid, and you do a number 8 mesh screen, and you can add powdered sugar, or you can add alcohol, and that will not kill. The alcohol obviously kills the bees and the mites, but powdered sugar is what most people like to do. It probably kills your bees too, but you coat the bees with good powdered sugar, and the mites can't cling on, so they let loose. And then you shake that jar, and the mites go through that screen, but the bees stay, loopy inside of the thing, and you count how many mites came out. You put it on like a piece of paper, a white plastic plate or something like that. And there's different thresholds. And when you reach a certain threshold for whatever the life cycle of the colony is, or generally time of year, then it tells you it's time to treat now. Because the treatments, if you think about it, it's really hard to kill one bug inside of another bug's house without harming that other bug.
Right.
So at some point, the mites are bad enough that you got to do something, or the bees are going to die. But there's also the other side where the mites aren't hurting the bees as bad as that insecticide is.
Mhm.
And then the other issue that we've come across in Texas, the mite treatments are very temperature dependent. So you'll read some products, you want to use something, but it'll be like, can't use it if the high temperature has to be 85. Well, that's like never, right? Like
Yeah.
we're getting higher than that now. So we have those treatments, we don't have a lot of times when we can use those. So we keep relying on one single type of treatment, and we've gotten resistance, and that's been a big problem. And we have seen colony losses greater than we did during colony collapse this last year, and it's because of resistance to those mites. So we got to figure out a better way, make a better bee so that the mites aren't as bad. And that's what most research is all about.
Yes.
So are those mites something that were naturally like occurring here before we brought honeybees over, or are they something that kind of just came over with the honeybees?
They didn't come into the United States. We didn't notice them until, I believe, the 80s or the 90s. And then they really crashed the beekeeping industry. And then on the tail of that was when the Africanized bee kind of made its way. So backyard beekeeping took a nosedive, and it's still definitely on the rise. People are really interested in doing that. But no, it's not native. So there was a USDA project to bring over Russian bees, Russian queens, and the idea was where that area of Russia where those queens are bred is also the area where the mites have been found the most or the longest. So there might be some natural selection. And that's still, there are breeders that sell the Russian bees, and they tend to be more hygienic, where they like pick the mites off of their bodies. And that's the trend right now, is to utilize hygienic bees, good genetics, so that you don't have to rely only on insecticides. You let the bees take care of it themselves. Or try to.
Try to. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So okay, so you said it was mites, and then what were the two other ones that you said? It was
Poor queen quality, like she's not laying eggs well, or she's too old. Like most beekeepers should requeen every year, put a new queen in there.
oh,
Kind of like chickens, right? Like chickens kind of stop laying as well after 2 years. Queen bees are going to be the same, and so you requeen every year to prevent them from making a new queen, and then you don't know what they're breeding with when that virgin queen flies out, and they might be breeding with aggressive drones, and then they come back in with those aggressive traits, and your colony gets real mean, and you're like, what happened? So you requeen every year, or when your queen is lousy at her job. And then the last one was nutrition, that they need food.
I did not realize that you were supposed to like I know bees as a species are not very long lived anyway, but I didn't realize that it was recommended to do it every single year. I figured like maybe like 2 years or so,
Yeah.
but oh wow, because so when you go to get a new queen, how do you go about introducing a new queen to a
You
hive?
find the old queen and you kill her. And I like to leave them queenless for like 48 hours. So they're desperate to accept this new queen, especially if the colony is real spicy, because then they may reject her. So I want them to want this new queen. So I'll go in and kill the queen. And then a couple days later, they come in a little cage
Mhm.
and they have cork stoppers on either end. You pop the cork out of one end that has like a sugar plug. You poke a little hole in that sugar plug to get a starter hole going. And so the bees on the outside and the queen on the inside chew through until she's released and she comes out. So you kind of do it a slow method, let them release her, and all this time, hopefully accepting her as their new queen.
Because
Kind of like a goldfish acclimating it.
a gold.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's a great analogy. And I know I've heard that like if they don't like the queen, they will kill the queen. And it's a really like cool, I hate to say cool way that they kill the queen, but it's like I hate to say it's like ingenious, but it's like it's not like you would think. Like it's not like
Interesting.
they don't like eat her to death. Like I think if I remember, like they actually literally like pile on top of her and just like basically cook her, right? Like
I
they
think I don't know. I
I,
believe you.
I'm gonna go off of what I saw on Facebook, which is probably a lie. But yeah, I feel like and maybe this is also true of other intruders, but yeah, they'll just like climb on top of her and just like radiate body heat or like I don't know. That's
Maybe.
what I heard. Maybe I'm making this up. I don't know.
I always thought they just kind of nipped at her and nipped at her
Oh,
until she finally got
maybe.
stressed out and died. Because they'll bite at her wings if they don't really like,
I
if the
can
queen
believe
is
that.
performing poorly, she'll get like, her wings will look real tattered. But
Oh.
I don't know. I guess I assumed they just stung her and killed her, but maybe not.
That would make way more sense if they stung and killed her than trying to like heat her up. But that's what I get for watching
Yeah.
videos on Facebook and probably being misinformed about how they kill.
It's
Um,
probably right some of the time. I've just, honestly, I've never thought about it.
yeah, it's so small, but so you kind of touched on the wings real quick. So like the queen bees, they don't really ever fly once they start producing eggs, but they still
Right.
just
Yeah.
keep they keep their
They
wings.
they they do. You can, and when you buy queens, you can actually buy them clipped. You can clip their wings so they cannot fly away. Um, that's important. I don't know that I see that as much anymore, but that was important when we had more Africanized traits in bees because
Mhm.
they like to leave. But yeah, when that new queen is born, the first 2 weeks of her life, she'll fly into these drone congregation areas and she'll mate with drones up in the air. And then she goes back into the hive and never leaves, should not ever leave again unless they get too crowded and they swarm. But she should stay there the rest of her life.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
you'd mentioned Africanized bees. So is this something you're making it sound like Africanization of bees is less common than it was? So is that true, or is that something that is still very much need to be aware of, but it's not quite as common? People have kind of figured ways around from
Yeah,
keeping their bees.
I personally think that it's a little more diluted. So if you think back to the 90s when the Africanized bees made it over, what the start of it was there was this Brazil was trying to figure out how to get a better bee for their tropical areas because bees are really a northern hemisphere thing. Um, and so their European honeybees were just not doing well in Brazil. And so this guy, Warwick Kerr, who I don't know if he was a beekeeper or like an animal husbandry thing or a geneticist or something, but he was anyway, he was working with the bees and he said he had an idea to go to Africa and take Apis scutellata, which was their African bee, and breed it with the European honeybees and make a hybridized Africanized bee. And he brought them back into Brazil and they got out. And then they started to move. And as they're moving, they're breeding with these European bees. And one of their traits is that they are more aggressive. And so these feral colonies started to become more and more and more aggressive. But as more and more of us are beekeeping, we're inundating the area with drones of gentle genetics, known genetics. And so I think we're diluting that out quite a bit, or we've just gotten used to it. It's kind of like fire ants, right? Like you don't, it's not a big, we figured out how to deal with it. So either we cowboyed up, or I think we're also diluting the area a little bit better by doing more backyard beekeeping. But you know, it's not fair to say that a mean colony is Africanized, because it may or may not be. And really, what does it mean? If you test the genetics and yes, you get like the positive, it's Africanized. How much Africanization means aggression? Because you can have a gentle, or you can have a like an Italian colony, pure Italian colony that's mean when they should be gentle, and you can have a very Africanized colony that's not so tough to deal with. So it's more about aggression, less than like what genetics, what, you know, is it Africanized or not? And, you know, if you think of like a lot of times people will mow too close to a feral colony and they get mad and they sting, and the body can only sustain so much venom, no matter what that venom, what variety of, or breed, I guess you could call it, of bee that comes from. And so, like, you know, judges will say, we want to test the bees for Africanization. And really, what's the point? The outcome is still awful. The person died from it, and the bees are mean, no matter if they're Africanized or not. They should probably be killed if they're, you know, in a log or something.
And I think that's one thing that's definitely I don't know, Carly, about you, but that's definitely a misconception I had, is you hear people that do, like you said, mow over a hive or disturb it, and then, you know, unfortunately die because of getting stung, and immediately everyone's like, oh, they were Africanized bees and all this other stuff.
Yes.
I guess I never realized that this was not a continuing, like, it's a continuing problem, but it's not necessarily that they're Africanized. It's just the
It's just a
personality trait.
personality.
It's just the personality trait of that hive. It's like, it's,
Right.
yeah, I just never realized that it was sort of a one incident of African bees being brought over. Well, not saying one incident, but it's not what the media makes it out to be.
Right.
It is basically what it comes down to.
And it's not, Africanized bees are not honeybees. They're just, there's races and subspecies of honeybees. Just like with dogs, we breed them for traits that we want: a little tiny lap dog, a guard dog, a family pet, you know, goofy personality, whatever. Well, we bred dogs, they're all the same species and they can all interbreed theoretically with one another, but we've bred them for a variety of different traits. And we do the exact same thing with bees, but they can still all interbreed with one another too. So they're all honeybees.
Okay. Yeah, that's an absolutely great point. So, okay, so we've kind of dove off in a rabbit hole. We'll try to bring it back, because I know we're coming back at our 1 o'clock hour. Carly's just like, Liz, just stick to the questions. Just stop diving down these rabbit holes.
No, I'm learning so much. That's why I've been kind of quiet. I've been taking notes over here too. So
Okay, so so somebody, okay, they've done all their homework, they are preparing to, you know, set up their yard for an apiary. What can those landowners, those homeowners do to make their property more bee friendly for their colonies?
Reduce pesticide use when you don't necessarily need to use it. If you're in a typical backyard, I'd be real careful about this, like especially if you have a veggie garden or something like that. So utilize other integrated pest management practices so you're not relying only on insecticides. Bees are fuzzy, 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 and that makes them fabulous pollinators, but it also means that they suck up environmental toxins. And so when they when they land on your plant, they touch that pesticide and they take it back to the nest, they're touching everyone else, and then you get these big die-offs. So I'd say that's number one. And then number two, it would be throw out wildflowers and other things and have an area, or if you do agriculture, that's perfect too. Just have food sources, water sources for them. If you don't have a creek creek or a tank or water on your property, give them something. I have a dry creek. It's never been wet ever. And so they used to come to my pool, but then I put in rain barrels, and the overflow of the rain barrels, they love that water. So I just keep filling it back up again. So that you can give them artificial pools of water. But water is important because it's hot here and they need water just like we do to regulate the temperature inside their hive.
How can you make, I'll say, like a bee friendly water? Because obviously they are not swimmers. They're
Yeah.
not swimmers. So how can you keep your bees safe when it comes to water?
Make it shallow and or put rocks or pebbles or a landing pad so that they don't land. If they land on the water, that's that same hair, those same hairs, they might drown. They'll like get bogged down with water, saturated, and then they'll drown. So give them something to land on, rocks or pebbles or something like that, so that they can go to the bank of the water instead of landing right on it.
And I guess
But
this
yeah,
also
they
sort
drown.
of leads me into our mosquito dunks. So say you have like a standing water feature, are mosquito dunks safe to put in your water
Yes.
to keep the mosquitoes out, but honeybees are safe?
Yes, 100%. The mosquito dunks only affect the gut of fly larvae. And so they're not going to affect your bees, your racehorses, your koi, your wildlife, anything like that. So that's a good way because that is a concern, right? If you leave water out, you're going to get more mosquitoes. Just put some mosquito dunks in there and that solves that problem.
And I also can go, I guess if you really want to get carried away, you could get mosquito fish
That
too.
too, yeah.
But then that's a whole nother level of another organism to take care of and to look
Yeah.
after. And I don't know
Well, they
how
kind
it
of take
works.
care of themselves.
This is true. And I don't know how they would do in Texas with it being so hot.
It,
I've never tried to keep an outdoor pond or water feature and keep something alive,
Yeah,
intentionally keep something alive in it.
yeah.
So I don't really
other than
know.
algae and mosquitoes.
Yeah, pretty
A,
much.
A lot of people do, and they do well, but you're right. Like a really shallow body of water maybe
Yeah,
would get too hot
too.
for them.
Mhm.
I actually had one summer I had bees that would go to a tank and the water was way, 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 way down. Like it was
Yeah.
essentially just a big, big mud puddle. But it was hot. The water was hot. And I would see the bees drink the water and fly away and then land and die. And I think it was because the water was too hot. It was burning them on the inside. So
Oh,
that's another
oh,
thing to think about. Like maybe put that
interesting.
water source in some shade, maybe not right in the middle of the blazing hot sun, or make sure it's deep enough that it's not too hot for them.
I had never, oh, that'd be
Yeah, I
like,
would not.
yeah, that's just one of those where it's like we're such large creatures compared to them that
Yeah,
what we don't necessarily think about is, yeah, oh, that's terrible.
it's
Yeah, I
terrible.
felt real bad. I felt real bad about it.
Oh, poor little things. Okay. Um, so you had mentioned finding your local beekeeping association. Is do you know of any in, so a lot of our viewers are like hill country area. Is there a look, I realize I'm putting you on the spot here, or is there a website people can visit to find their
There,
association?
there is. So if you go to the Texas Beekeepers Association, I think it's tba.org. I'm going to tell you right now. They have all of the local beekeeping associations that are kind of affiliated with that. That's our state beekeepers association. It's texasbeekeepers.org. And then they have a tab for resources, maps / near you. And you can actually find honey, people that sell honey, people that will do swarm removal. Swarm is different than a hive. A swarm is a ball of exposed bees. A hive, like up in the soffits or your chimney or something, that's a hive.
So
And then
swarm
there's
is their
local.
they're trying to find a new home.
Yes, and
Okay.
they're in transit.
Okay.
But then you can also find local clubs, and I don't know why, but it's showing it in like Chinese symbols. But there
Oh,
is a club in Williamson County. There's a Williamson County Beekeepers Association. There's a Coriel Beekeepers by Copper's Cove in Killeen. And then there's one in Austin, a big one in Austin, one in Dripping Springs, one in Babcock. I mean, sorry, Bastrop, one in Blanco. and one in Comal County also. That's a big one. And then, of course, we have two in San Antonio, the Alamo Area Beekeepers Association, and Bees in the East, or kind of Seguin area. So there's a good number of local beekeeping clubs. May not be like right in your backyard, but I'd say it's probably worth the drive. Alamo Area Beekeepers does like workshops that you can attend, but it's just a really good place to network and find out where are people buying things. If you have bees, are their bees doing what your bees are doing? And a lot of those beekeeping clubs have mentorship programs. So you can sign up and have a mentor you can ask questions with, go out with them into their hives, things like that, so that you can learn from them, because every year is different. Every beekeeper does it differently. And even the same beekeeper does it different every year.
Yep. Yep. Well, there's so many different factors that change from year to year. So you're
Yeah.
constantly, and it's nice that you can like call someone or text them and be like, hey, I have a question. Have you come
Yeah.
across blank before? And they're like, oh yes. Or be like, no, but I have a friend that, this happened to them. So that's great. But you'd also mentioned the beekeeping classes that we offer with extension. So is this something that happens certain times of year? Is it a virtual thing that it's kind of at your convenience you can take it? What does that look like?
It is all of the above. We try to make it easy. So we have an apiculture program now. We have a specialist, Dr. Garrett Slater, and then 3 program specialists, one in Angleton, Houston area, one in Dallas, Fort Worth area, and then myself in San Antonio, to try to meet the need. That's where the majority of the beekeeping clubs are. So assuming that that would be where more beekeepers are. And so we do beekeeping 101 classes and more advanced things. And those generally, at least for me, are happening in the spring and the fall. I'm finishing up my beekeeping 101 classes. I'm just doing field days at this point after the classes, because it's going to get too cold and there's not a lot to see in the hives when we get further into this month. And then it's too hot in the summer. So we are limited to like September, October, and March, April, maybe May. But then we also have, and I'm trying to think of a good way to find out about those beekeeping classes, probably just going to agriliferegister.tamu.edu and seeing what's available when it's available. But we have an online course on agrilifelearn.tamu.edu that is self-paced. And I think it's available forever and ever once you pay for it and have it. I will do a coupon code in the fall and the spring. And so it's a little bit reduced price, but that way I'm able to know who registered at that time and offer a field day for it. So there are lots and lots of classes, but I would say if you can do a hands-on component of it, that will, because you'll leave the class like, what on earth? You're so confused. There's all this jargon, nothing makes sense. But the minute you do it yourself, then it starts to click. So if you're able to do a field day where you can put on a bee suit and get in the hive, I think that will make you much more prepared for your bees and more comfortable when you get them.
Yep, I think that is 100% true. Yeah, all the jargon, but then once, yeah, that's that physical component of it that just you're like, oh, I get it. I get it now.
Yes.
I am the
That's what you
exact
need.
I am the exact same way. But Carly, do you have any other questions? Because I know I talked a lot today. Oh, you're still muted.
Thank you. No, I learned a lot. Thank you for explaining all that. And you had really good questions, so I don't have any additional questions.
And I think it's like we always talk about, I feel like we could go for another like
Yeah.
easy 30 minutes on this topic and still not cover everything. Obviously,
Yeah.
you have a whole class set up for this.
Yeah.
So
Like a
yeah.
6-hour class, and we still
There you
don't cover
go.
everything.
So we could go 6 hours and still not cover everything. So
Yeah.
yeah, so if y'all are interested in having your own apiary in your backyard, go check out Beekeeping 101, either online or in person. But I guess if that's all we have, Molly, is there anything that you wanted to say before we close out?
I guess one thing I didn't mention, we also have the Texas Master Beekeeper program. Very different from Master Naturalists and Master Gardeners.
Is this
We
new?
have
Or is
it's
it?
been around, but we're trying, since the apiculture program got funding to actually happen, we're trying to kind of revamp it and make it
Okay.
work. a little better. And so you take exams to move up into the different levels if you want to move up into the different levels. But there's a 10-week course that you can sign up for. I think the sessions are recorded. So that's another online virtual way to learn a lot about beekeeping. There are not field days associated with it, but that's just Google Texas Master Beekeepers program, sorry, TMBP. And then if you want information about field days and things like that, try to find the Texas Apiculture program on Facebook. And that's usually where that's probably the easiest place to put where we're going to post most things that would be easy for people to find.
Okay. Well, it sounds good. And we'll put some of that stuff down in the comments so people can easily find it, easily access it. But Molly, thank you so much for joining us this week and talking to us about apiaries and bees.
Thanks for having me.
We learned so much.
Thank you.
But yeah, we will see y'all next Tuesday. I forgot to look. Carly, do you remember what we're having? Who's on next? Is it Marcus
Yeah, it's supposed to
Bloom?
be Marcus. He is our new wildlife specialist for, I think, the state, right?
Yes. He is
And
statewide.
I'm double checking. I need to double check with
I
him,
think
but I
it's
think we're gonna talk
aging
about
on the hoof.
aging on the hoof. Yeah.
Yes, the aging deer on the hoof. So, but yes, want to thank y'all. And we will hopefully see y'all next week. So, bye.
Yes, thank you.